Good day, everybody. This is KC back with Aligned Astrology. Today, we're going to talk about the outer planet Uranus making its ingress into the sign of Gemini. The planet Uranus has spent the last 7 years in the sign of Taurus, making a lot of changes in our experiences. If we look back at our past 7 years and remember what our house of Taurus is in our own zodiac chart, we can reminisce, we can go back and determine for ourselves what big transformations that planet made in our lives. Me as a Scorpio rising got to experience Uranus in the seventh house in the sign of Taurus. So for me, that was a lot of changes in my own relationship dynamics, how I operate in one-on-one relationships, and my actual like partnerships that I was a part of. I'd gone through a relationship, got out of a relationship, and found another relationship that would probably last for the rest of my lifetime. So it's very interesting what Uranus can do as the revolutionary, erratic planet in the zodiac. I always like to say that the planet Uranus is the one that flips the table over, knocks everything all over the place. And once we pick the table up, there's no way we'll put things back in the way that they were. It's like taking a 180-degree turn and going in a different direction. This planet carries the energy of revolution. We know that the planet Uranus was present when the Revolutionary War began in the U.S. This planet had recently just been discovered around that time. It's important for us to also understand the technological advancements that the planet Uranus brings into our experience. We know that AI is very present, and with the planet Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini, it's important to notice that as Uranus was in Taurus, Taurus is a more slow to begin moving sign. It's a sign that likes to be in one place. It likes to remain in stillness, as it is a fixed sign. Now we're moving into an air sign. We're moving into a mutable air sign at that. So this air sign Gemini likes to be connected to many different groups. It likes to have the communication. It likes to have the connection, you know? So when we think about Uranus as an erratic planet, things can tend to change. The groups that we surround ourselves with can change. Gemini is also correlated with the planet Mercury as its home. Mercury lives in the sign of Gemini. So when we think about Gemini, we can think about the mind. We can think about how we communicate, how we think. So when we move Uranus into the sign of Gemini, we can notice things start to pick up a lot quicker. We experienced Uranus move into Gemini for a little while last summer. And maybe we noticed a bit of different things going on with AI. The technological advancements with AI became very prevalent when we started seeing videos, and we didn't necessarily know that it was AI. And we can see that now, but a lot of the things are being labeled now. So when you see a video, it looks very real, but it's actually the AI. So as this planet Uranus comes into Gemini to stay for the next 7 years, we can take a moment and ask ourselves, what's going to come from it? What technological advancements are going to come? We can also see the planet Uranus as a planet of awakening, a planet of enlightening ourselves. You know, as this is the planet that takes us and turns us into a different direction. You know, it's a conscious shock that we can receive that transforms our own ideals, our own beliefs in this life, and helps us to move in a new direction. Since it's moving into the sign of Gemini, which can be correlated with the groups and communities of people, as it's an air sign, we can see that we're being led in a direction, we're being connected with a group of people. And it's important to understand that as this planet Uranus is moving into this sign of Gemini, that everybody's going to have the word. Uranus is giving us the opportunity to start new things, is giving us the opportunity to meet new people and connect with people fast, quickly. It's important to understand that when we start to connect with these groups, we remember ourselves because the planet Uranus, depending on where it's landing in our own particular zodiac chart, has the tendency to help us see life differently, give us a different outlook. Whether if we're Gemini rising, it's going to make a shift in our own personal life, how we see ourselves and how we want to be seen by the world. Maybe we're a Scorpio rising and it's time for the karmic clock to come to an end. The relationships that we've had that have been holding us back, maybe it's time for those to end. Maybe it's time to connect with people and find more benefit out of relationship connection. And it's not necessarily the spousal relationship. It can be work relationships. It can be familial relationships, friendships. Maybe we have that Uranus moving into Gemini in the 10th house as a Virgo rising, and it's making us take a big shift in our own career path. Maybe we're leaving our career as a whole and starting something brand new. It doesn't really matter what age we are, you know. Astrology doesn't bind us by time. We have potential to make a shift, and it might just be right on time. So as I say all these different things, I want to pull up a chart so we can look at what the other planets are doing in connection with the planet Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini. So we can see what the dispositor in Aries is doing, what aspects are received by the planet Uranus, in order to give us a greater insight on how this may be affecting us directly and collectively. So we know that Uranus moves into Gemini on the late evening of April 25th, moving into April 26th, Eastern Direct Time. And that Uranus is in a conjunction with the sign of Venus, the planet Venus. Now we know Venus as the planet of love, of beauty, of harmony, of art, all things that are beneficial to us, the way we like to receive. So when the revolutionary erratic planet of Uranus comes in a conjunction with Venus, it can show that we're experiencing a beautiful invitation into a new way of being, a new way of seeing and experiencing life over the next 7 years. It's very important to notice what connections planets make when they move into a new sign. We know that Mercury is in the sign of Aries. We just had that big stellium in the sign of Aries a couple of days ago. We had 6 planets. If you count Chiron, it's 7 planets. Me personally, in my practice, I don't use Chiron, but we know that when there's a big stellium in a zodiac sign, it carries a lot of energy, especially in the sign of Aries. And since Mercury is here while Uranus is moving into Gemini, it's carrying that energy of moving forward motion, taking action. So maybe there's people that we're connecting with. Maybe there's communities that are opening doors for us to move along the path quickly. And it's important for us to be mindful of these connections that we're coming into because they might feel like truth right now. And we may need to slow down for a moment. We may need to take a pause because we have to remember that with that stellium that just previously occurred in the sign of Aries, we're raring to go. We're very intent on moving forward, but we have Saturn here as well in the sign of Aries, still calling us to take a moment to take heed in our expression, heed in our experiences, and moving towards action. But it's very important for us to be mindful of that planet Uranus. As it slowly moves forward, it'll begin to make connections and make aspects to these different planets, and we'll begin to see how it unfolds in our own particular lives. We can also see that Venus in the sign of Gemini wants to bridge the gap in in a connection with people, wants to be able to feel love and harmony in relationship. And Uranus may open a door for us to achieve those things. Maybe it's time to cut off some old connection in order to be free. Because Uranus is also that planet of freedom, of liberation. And when Venus shows us what positive benefits we can have, maybe we go in that direction. But it's also very important to notice as Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini, what's going on in that higher mind? What spontaneous thoughts do we gain through these experiences? We need to take it into consideration, that intuition that Uranus is receiving from that aspect from Neptune. And we use that 3-degree orb range. Of course, these planets are slow moving. When we think about Neptune making a sextile aspect to Uranus, we still need to take into consideration our intuition. And this can be on a collective level as well. We can just feel out the energy of the world right now and notice what's going on. And we can once again notice, if you watch my last video, remember that as these things go on, we only have so much control. We have the control over what we do in our own personal lives, the actions that we take. There can be a lot of he says, she says activity, blaming people, and even feeling like the victim in situations. But when Uranus moves into Gemini, maybe we gain an opportunity to seek liberation through some sort of community, some sort of brotherhood or some sort. But remember, even a community or brotherhood, things like these don't bring us true satiation, true liberation. It is us who must seek that for ourselves, going deep into our internal world, our inner awareness. So maybe that Uranus opens the door for that path to begin, showing us the quality of life over the quantity, showing us the harmony in relationships over the false relationships. Ancient astrologers, well, not so ancient, because Neptune and Pluto and Uranus were not discovered in ancient times, but astrologers would accustom or connect Neptune, or not Neptune, but Gemini to the planet Uranus and say that it is the higher octave of the planet Mercury, like that higher mind aspect where we can gain those clear insights. So maybe there's the time for those things to come in. Maybe there's the time for internal opportunity to express itself, and that may be the guiding light to move us in a different direction. But we must be very clear. We must be able to still the mind, quiet ourselves, and understand truly if this is the path. That's where that benefit of that Neptune here is showing its sextile aspect to Uranus. Because with that energy of a Mercury in the sign of Aries imparting that expression onto the planet Uranus, from a dispositor standpoint, from a rulership standpoint, the energy says go, the energy says move forward, this is the right one. But we need to remember that maybe it's not the truth. With that being said, friends, take all these things into consideration. Take them with a grain of salt. Remember, there's many different ways to understand astrology, many different ways to experience it in our own lives. So as this planet moves into the sign of Gemini, we have 7 years to experience this unfold. Thanks for being here, friends. If you like the video, please remember to like the video and subscribe. So that way it helps the algorithm. It helps people like you see my videos. So that way this channel can keep growing and we can keep making more videos. Until the next time, friends, this is Aligned Astrology. We'll see you soon.